Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here, as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, in the strangest of circumstances, we've actually been able to record straight after a win in a game. How are you doing, mate?
It's good, mate. Usually one of us are out or at the game, or it's very rare that we're both. Well, I was going to say sat on the sofa, but you weren't saying that. You were in a bar of sorts, just not the most regular, were you?
Yeah, man. I'm away with the family at the moment. But yeah, what a game, Dan. What a game. 2-0. There, I don't think there's going to be too much analysis today, purely because I don't think the broadband stretches that far. Um, but if you want to sit and join us for the next sort of 10 15 minutes as we discuss with much joy the wonders that are Jacob Ramsey and CARNEY CHUKWUEMEKA, as well as just that performance in general, then I urge you to stay with us. And if you're not subscribed, please do. I'm going to mention that earlier on. We're trying to hit 5K by the end of the year. I don't think it will happen, but a lot of you guys that are watching this aren't subscribed. So, Dan and I would really appreciate it.
It's not the one.
Hit that subscribe button, press the bell button so you never miss a podcast or a video from us here at Heart of the Holt. But Dan, first of all, Norwich away, a homecoming of sorts for Dean Smith, first time facing his former side. Quite quickly after, obviously losing the job as well. I think, he's been in the job sort of 4 or 5 games now for Norwich. So, I know he said it didn't feel strange, but I can't imagine, how he's been feeling really for the past sort of 2 or 3 days leading up to this game. It must have been a bit of a confusing one. And especially to see his son sort of put the nail in the coffin straight away, Jacob Ramsey with a wonder strike.
It's meant to be, isn't it, mate? It's so bizarre how these things work out. It was one of those where it was the first thing that came to my mind, and that's a shame because that was where my mind was immediately diverted to is that angle. And first of all, it's an exceptional goal by JJ, made a lot easier by some pretty Norwich defending. That's almost an adjective at this point, isn't it? Norwich defending. That's
trademark.
There's no really effort, and the thing is, he's now of that ilk where if you give him that sort of time and space, he's got that ability, and he seems to have that drive and that confidence to go and have a goal, which he didn't have last season. Last season I had no problem with JJ in the team. My only qualm was that you never really felt like there was going to be an end product. It's like you'd get a good performance, but you were never going to get the goal or assist that came with it. Do you know what I mean? And that was my only beef with JJ last. And trust me, there were very few, but that was it last season. It's that, unfortunately, when we were in this sort of situation that we were, wins were very important. They are to any side, and I just never really felt that JJ was going to give you that goal or assist that was going to go and win a game. This season, however, it's completely different. He's, as I said, it's such a joy to see. I love when young players run with the ball full stop. It's always great because, it's so often you see them, and rightly so, I'd definitely be this way, mate. It's just come onto a pitch, play it safe, keep it tidy, few yard passes, that's it. It's always a real joy, whether it's successful or not, to see young players pick up the ball and drive at defences. It's clear that that's been JJ's game for a long time, but to see him skip through a few challenges and then find the finish as well is really reassuring, mate, because he's now not just a player that you feel that you should be including because you've got to give him that pathway. He's now a player that we should include because he's earned himself that spot in the team now. And delighted for the boy, mate. It's a bit full circle that he scored against Dean, but I suppose I'd like to say there'd be a wry smile on Dean's face, but I'm not sure there would have been.
Dan, firstly, I would be concerned if you were dribbling with the ball, mate, being a goalkeeper. That would really.
Yeah. Well, mate,
you've
seen crazier things. You've seen crazier things.
we've seen it. We've seen it on the five-a-side pitches, Dan.
Yeah,
so
mate.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Can't dribble out my 6-yard box. Can't dribble out that 6-yard box, but I'm dribbling.
But I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Dan. I think last season, as you say, last season was huge for JJ on a personal level because I think it's almost hard to have the foresight. I think we all knew how much of a talented player that JJ actually is, but I agree with you, Dan. There was times where he's starting, and of course you're gassed because the academy is doing its job. But it almost felt like, what are we doing here? Like it almost didn't make sense to include him. But it's those minutes and the preseason that he's had that has built up to this. So, them times when we've started him against Wolves and Manchester City, and we're sitting there sort of scratching our heads a little bit, it's made sense. And again, that's a credit to Dean Smith. That's a credit to the football club and the fine academy that we have, Dan. I think I have a little problem, Dan. I have a little problem. I'm nowhere near as vexed as I was after the Leicester podcast. And there were a few comments about that, but Maddison really triggered me. Ollie Watkins has me really concerned. A goal, an assist, wonderful. I don't think he likes Danny Ings, Dan. There's something there. Ollie Watkins will do everything but pass the ball to Danny Ings. Everything but pass. And I've had conversations on this podcast. I've had conversations on the terraces about Ollie's decision-making in the final third. I said on the podcast a few weeks ago, Dan, after the Brighton game, if Ollie didn't score that goal against Brighton, it's almost unforgivable, because the pass was on to Takashi. And of course, every striker backs himself in that situation. I 100% get it. Maybe I'm reading into this a bit too deep, Dan. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work.
It's one of those where we sort of said at the time that whilst I'll never say that we shouldn't have signed Danny Ings, because it feels crazy to say that we should not have passed up on a player of that quality, especially when we did lack depth in the striking department. We can't beat around the bush there. And I think the problem is that we all sort of felt that when we played one up front, to go and sign a player who was of the same standard at that time, maybe better than Ollie Watkins, was one where we sort of felt like, okay, Ollie can play on the wing, but that was always it's what Ollie never put a foot wrong last season. It felt sort of almost slightly unfair to shunt him out into the wing. And we all know that, strikers at a club, there's sort of friendliness there, but they very rarely get along. There's straight up competition. It's like keepers. It's like, it's the same sort of situation, especially in today's era. I think goalkeepers is probably the best position to liken it to, because very rarely do you see two up front nowadays. There's usually only ever one striker on the pitch, and so I think keepers is the best way to look at it, in that, you have another guy that realistically that if if it's keepers, if you let a goal in, or if it's a striker, you miss a chance, you're not going to start the next game, especially when the guy on the bench is Danny Ings. It feels almost unfair to be bringing Danny Ings on at like 80 minutes against Norwich, because he's not going to be happy on the bench with not starting against a team like Norwich, because it's a perfect game for him to go and get some goals. It's a situation that I think almost made Dean's bed. That failing to sort out that situation was one of the major reasons that I think it didn't go his way this season. Stevie, I think, seems to have got a bit more of a hold on it, just in terms of the hierarchy there. He hasn't tried to work them into a two yet, but it's clear that Ollie is his favourite, whereas Dean never really established that favourite. It was always flittering between the two. So at least Stevie's got a grip on who he wants to play. But you're right, mate. It's going to take a lot of work between the two of them to figure something out. And, Danny Ings, I think, must have been the only player at Carrow Road in Claret and Blue that there was a little of an eye roll when Ollie scored at the end of the game, because that's, again, Ollie's spot in next week guaranteed, and Danny, again, probably on the bench.
With so many games over this sort of period as well, you would have, I'm fairly sure we even said in the last podcast, Dan, this is a Danny Ings game. He surely starts this game. Obviously, you would expect and hope that Villa would have got 3 points away to Norwich, but maybe keep Ollie Watkins on the bench, keep him a bit fresher for Burnley at home. Again, you want to win your home games, especially against Burnley when they are just doing a Burnley at the moment as well, for want of a better expression. But I think there is of course, another 45 minutes in this game, Dan, where I think if Villa had have applied the same sort of pressure and whatnot that we saw in the first half, I think this game would have been out of sight like by the 60-minute mark. It's very routine, but the one thing that impressed me so much, Dan, and I'm trying not to get too carried away because it's Norwich with no disrespect at all intended, comfortably the second worst team in the division, despite what the table says. I think Newcastle are worse. The passing triangles, the movement, how comfortable we looked on the ball, Dan. I never really worried when Villa lost possession because I knew we were going to win it back almost instantaneously. And seeing again how we worked the triangle so well, how comfortable everyone was on the ball. I love Marv, and with the rumours that he's potentially out to the end of the season, Dan, it's genuinely devastating news. But a midfield three of Dougie, McGinn, JJ is so fluid, Dan, and honestly, it's almost night and day, isn't it? I mean, again, this isn't Marv slander. Marv has been fantastic. Like he has executed his role with 100% conviction and has been brilliant. He has been brilliant, but in terms of mobility, agility, and just overall, again, like how much more mobile Villa's midfield have looked in this 90 minutes compared to the 90 minutes we saw the other day, Dan. It is night and day.
Mate, you when you talk about Marvellous Nakamba, and again, no slander, and I'm trying not to be too harsh when I say this, but you used the right word. You said role. He has a role against certain teams when you need a Marvellous Nakamba. Against Norwich, you don't. You really don't. You can trust to go out and play on the front foot. You can, again, I think with, JJ in that midfield is going to get all the plaudits, but you got to shout out John McGinn and Douglas Luiz for their performances, particularly Douglas Luiz, who I thought was excellent again today. Yeah. You don't want to be seeing Marv against Norwich. And it's so harsh to say. And unfortunately, it just comes with the position. It's like a third centre-back. It's the same thing. It's, you want to go and see yourself play on the front foot. And that fluidity to our play is, I think, what would have made Dean most uncomfortable on the sideline, because that's not something he was able to achieve this season. He couldn't get Villa playing like that. And Stevie's come in, he's done it really well. And again, you're right. We've sort of, there is an asterisk next to everything we're saying, in that we are playing Norwich and they are notoriously easy to go and play against. Yes, but you can't ignore the fact that this is a team who have improved under Dean Smith. Yeah, there's no 100%. Way to. Yes, they've lost their last two games coming into this, but they made a very good game of it against Man United, and they were only undone by a penalty. Before that, they got went at St James's, got that drew with Wolves. They beat Southampton in their first game. The game before that, they beat Brentford. So they've only actually lost twice, now 3 times, sort of in their last 7 games. And whilst that's not great form for many teams, when you're Norwich, that's not too bad. And so we saw them make a real game of it against United. So I think that's got to come into account when you talk about this performance, in that I didn't think it was a stellar performance. It's not one to tell the grandkids about or anything like that, but we went and did the job really, really well. And that is not something that Villa have always been able to do, is it? It's sometimes these are the games that we stumble on, and it's good to see that hopefully that won't become a habit under Stevie.
But that's why it's such a big win, Dan. Yes, it's Norwich. Yes, it's a Tuesday night. Yes, it is. It's such a winnable game on paper. Again, no disrespect to any Norwich fans if you are listening. You play wonderful football once every 2 years. It's one of them things. Villa should be winning this game, and did. And again, as I said, we maybe made it look a bit too difficult, a bit more difficult than we actually needed it to be. And that the game actually was at times in the second half. But it was really good to see us get that second goal, Dan. I mean, we were texting throughout the game, and we need, you were saying we need a second goal. It came, and it was delivered beautifully on a plate by CARNEY CHUKWUEMEKA. And I know I've sat here and said I'm not being held ransom by an 18-year-old. Just please sign a contract, CARNEY. Please.
CARNEY.
You've got a face for it now.
Follow suit. We got Archer signed. We need to get CARNEY doing the same, mate.
That's it, man. That's it. That's the thing. Like, we've got, he can sit. Any of the talk that happened, regarding CARNEY's future or whatever, I think Stevie put that to bed pretty well. I think, with what he said, he said, we've sat down with him, and it seems fairly obvious that there are pathways into the starting 11, you only have to look at JJ to know if you're good enough, you're going to be inside. And he's getting minutes here and there. He's been in and around the bench, coming on, getting assist. That is going to do wonders, Dan. And he put himself about a bit better than I think he has done in previous games as well. In Manchester City, I think you could criticise the pressing or the sort of distinct lack of pressing from CARNEY in his cameo. And I think we've seen since that progressively he's improved. He's looked much more comfortable. Like today, he's thrown himself into some challenges. He's feeling a bit more adventurous in terms of what he's going to do with the ball. And then obviously getting an assist, Dan, is the sort of the cherry on top, isn't it? I mean, please, CARNEY, just sign a thing. Going all troops.
Play that Mike Tyson video, mate. That's all you need at this point. Sign the contract. Mate, he's since that report came out, it's really pained me watching him, because it's like, oh, he's so wonderfully talented, and he could do so much for this team. And it's beautiful to see him going out and do that. I just wish, Caleb as well is another one where, he's got a brother who looks like he could just be just as much of the real deal as CARNEY. And it would be great to see them two play together. Obviously, we've got Jacob and Aaron Ramsey. And Cole as well. You've got Cole Ramsey as well, who's a few age groups younger. So we could have like five siblings playing in the Villa first team that are further down the line. And for that reason and that reason alone, I'm desperate for this kid to sign. But now, again, it's sort of like JJ, where CARNEY, that end product is starting to creep in. And I'm really happy for him, man, because we spoke about that miss. I say miss. It seems hard to call it that against City. The chance, probably chance is a better word for it. And that would have played on his mind a lot. And I mean, I know it's nowhere near as significant, but that goal contribution is there. It'd be great if he's on the end of it next time, but I'm sure that's to come, mate. And hopefully it's under a new deal as well.
Mate, that would just be, it'd be the perfect way to top off the year, I think. It's, again, big 3 points. It's everything you want in a 2-0 win away to Norwich, isn't it? You've got your two star boys in the team. Ollie Watkins is still scoring goals. Dean Smith, I'm sorry, but, you have to hold the L on this occasion. I'm sure it won't, obviously it's not the first, it won't be the last against Aston Villa. It was almost warming seeing that, because we've seen it so many times and just sat there and go, fuck me, like, oh God, like this next 15 minutes is going to be long. So yeah, I mean, sorry, Dean, but that's just how it works. And obviously we've got Burnley next, Dan. It's again, as we've kind of discussed, it on paper it has to be 3 points. I think it will be. Fingers crossed. I mean, we don't usually do predictions, Dan. It's been a while since I've put you on the spot for predictions. But I think I can speak on your behalf and say that it's going to be a Villa win in that case. And I mean, I don't think you would have. Has your mom seen Jack? We had Jack in the
I haven't heard anything. The comment section is there.
Yeah.
For whoever you are, I really want to reference you by name. I feel
he replied on the last podcast.
Did he? I missed it. I missed it.
No way. I'm going to get
Brilliant.
You. He did reply, and his name was Jack.
We need to give this guy the clout. Indeed, mate. Indeed, we need to give this guy the clout he deserves. I missed a comment. No way. I was looking for that as well.
You always read the comments as well.
I do. I'm always active in the comments as well. You know this. So, yeah, it's one of those where
hard work here.
Yes, here he is, Jack the Sauna Man. There we go. There he is. Shout out to you, Jack. I mean, it's finally good to get you that shout out, mate. I've been meaning to do it for weeks. Jack the Sauna Man. I mean, if that's not a nickname, mate, I don't know what it is.
Also, shout out to Joe again. Dan Wiseman to end world hunger this time.
There we go.
That's what you can do. This is what you can achieve as Prime Minister.
I'd want to see every week a new part of my manifesto, and then by the end of the season, I'll put it out as a full PFD, man. It'd be for the world to see.
Yeah, for every single podcast now for the rest of the season, guys. Let's create Dan's manifesto for Prime Minister. We'll get him running as an independent candidate.
We should caveat that there was a comment. There was a comment for everyone that doesn't know. There was a comment on the last podcast that said I should be prime minister. I think this came after we made some jokes aimed at the Tory party, and I'm fully on board with this. I'm fully on board with this. So yeah, let's see some policies down below, guys. What a podcast, mate! I love this. I love this. You guys,
absolutely,
you guys.
You guys are the best, man. You guys are the best.
100%.
Again,
100%.
you know, just looking through the comments again, just before we go, shout out to Mark, best channel there is. Thanks, lads. Look forward to your videos, mate. It means the most. It means the most. You guys are brilliant. So yeah, say hi in the comments. Let's build Dan's manifesto. We've got a fair amount of games to do this, guys. And if you enjoyed, make sure you subscribe for more content. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe.
Yes, sir.
Love the Villa.